It's been pointed out to me that in our last episode where I talked about Thomas More and his resistance to letting King Henry VIII let his marriages run amok all over Vatican intentions. Thomas More was executed because he did not believe that the King of England was spiritually in the right place in replacing his brides, which ended up being 6. So he was executed, which is another great example of how religion and politics just turn into something really ugly very often. But I was asked about Thomas Cromwell, and Thomas Cromwell was around the same time. And he was a nobleman. He was the Earl of Essex. And after Thomas More, he became the most powerful proponents of the English Reformation, which basically meant we're pulling away from the Vatican and we're going to make our own rules here in England. So he helped engineer the king's annulment from Catherine of Aragon, who had been on his side much of the time. She was still very powerful, and he turned her into an enemy, but the king wanted to marry Anne Boleyn. The Pope, of course, said no way, and the king had Parliament come forward and said that the king is now the supreme head of the Church of England, giving them a complete break from the Vatican, even though many of the laws and dogmas still held true. And he became a vicegerent, a high officed person in the Church of England. And then Henry got tired of Anne Boleyn, and Cromwell thought he would step in and he would find the exact right wife for King Henry VIII, which would cement his power while trying to play both sides of the fence. And he chose a woman named, a German princess by the name Anne of Cleves. And sight unseen, he brought her to England, and when she got there, they let her out of her kennel. She started barking, and the king was very upset. He married her anyway on Cromwell's advice, and he just focused on Cromwell as being his enemy. So because he chose an unattractive woman to be the king's wife, played politics against Catherine of Aragon, and Anne Boleyn, he was taken up to the Tower Hill and had his head chopped off. Now, this wasn't where Thomas More was executed for not working against his spiritual values. Thomas Cromwell got caught up in his own web of trying to gain power through the Church of England. In both cases, they lost their head. The king later expressed remorse in a more lucid moment that he had killed Cromwell, but that's where the term, I'm sure, losing your head comes from, which is an aphorism, which is a saying. You don't say, Tommy lost his head out there and walked 4 batters. Well, it didn't mean his head fell off and he couldn't get the ball over the plate. It means that he lost control of his emotional stability. He lost his head. And that is something we're going to talk about. Some of these sayings that come from either the Bible or religion, or the time, the idiom when all of these historic things were happening.